Thanks for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. You can find us wherever you find podcasts or listen to music. When you have an opportunity, please give us a 5-star review, write a little note, tell us how we're doing. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep this thing going. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at Facebook at Hidden Tracks. Instagram is at HiddenTracks99, and if you'd like to send in submissions or talk to us or give us any feedback about what we're doing, our email is myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to another edition of Hidden Tracks. I am here this week with Danny Dunlap from Gentlemen Rogues, Austin, Texas-based band. I will call it power pop punk or punk rock or power pop or however we want to do it. Again, we don't fucking genre label, but we have to, so you kind of have an idea of what you're getting into. So, Danny, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
So, right down to it, Gentlemen Rogues, found you on a Bandcamp deep dive, as I do, and came across it and was totally enthralled. It has a nice essence of some older power punk that I listened to growing up as an older man now in my life, and I really enjoyed it and reached out to you, and now you're on the show. So how you doing?
It's that simple. I'm doing great. I'm doing good. I just got off work, and I'm having a beer, and I'm relaxing. So, yeah, I'm doing great.
Good. So, creating music in this crazy time of our life, how have you been managing?
I've been managing fine. We have, as a band, have been actually, it sounds like, at risk of sounding insensitive, because you can't be too sensitive these days. I find that we've been actually very productive this year, and we've got, I think because we haven't been playing shows and we haven't been doing anything, or, other than just trying to survive, I think I've written an album's worth of material probably and then some this year, and which is kind of, without anyone knowing the inner workings of the band or how non-prolific I can be. I actually have written a bunch of songs this year, so we've been very productive, and we're kind of in the process of sort of fleshing them all out, and kind of, I guess the plan is we're going to record a brand new record in the fall, I suppose.
Well, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because with obviously everything that's been going on, there's bands haven't been even rehearsing, and we started rehearsing not terribly long after all of this started, and this is probably making us sound really reckless, but we were for probably about 3 months we didn't do anything, starting March of 2020, and that's basically the week of my birthday, South by Southwest, that's when everything kind of shut down, and we didn't really do anything for about 2 or 3 months. Yeah, about 3 months. And then John, who plays guitar he and I are the guitarists in the band. We started getting together, wearing masks and sitting on opposite ends of the rehearsal room from each other, and we were just well, let's start working on some new song ideas. And so we did that for a little while, probably another 3 months or so, with just John and I. And then Josh, who plays drums in the band, he started kind of showing up, maybe once a week, or once every 2 weeks or so, and we just kind of sort of organically started kind of playing again, and we were doing it safe and stuff. But a lot of bands, I'm kind of finding out now that everything is mellowing out, I suppose, a lot of people are oh God, we're starting to rehearse again, and I'm we kind of never stopped. I mean, we barely stopped, but so that's another thing. We've been kind of working on all these new songs, and just haven't really. We only took about 3 months off, and we've just been kind of playing it real safe in terms of what we do when we get together. But we have been basically practicing and rehearsing for the last like 6 to 8 months, I would say.
Well, then I'm expecting some amazing shit coming out of the new album.
I hope so. I like all the stuff that we're doing. It's different. It's different than maybe, if you're familiar with any of our older stuff, it's maybe more like punky, a little more like straightforward. I think that we put out a single this past December, but December 2020. Is that this past December? What day is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So we put out a 7-inch single for a song called Do the Resurrection. And a lot of the newer stuff we're doing is kind of more along those lines in terms of just how kind of straightforward the song is. That was kind of a conscious effort to just try to write a really simple song, 3 chords, power chords, and just kind of make a pop song or whatever that would be, a slammer, but at the root of it, really, really simple. And a lot of the newer stuff we have is kind of like that. It's sort of like 50-50, like really simple power chordy kind of punky pop songs, and then there's a handful of them that are kind of weirder.
But simple can be beautiful. It's especially
Absolutely.
with punk. It's 3 chords and the teenage angst truth that comes through.
You're absolutely right, and that's something that I feel like I'm kind of reconnecting with this past year. I guess if one thing were to come out of the pandemic that were positive, at least for me, was that. I think that this was probably due to kind of thinking back to sort of happier times or something. Like when was life fun? When was it exciting? When did everything feel fresh and everything felt like exciting and new? And that was when I was a teen and was discovering music in a way that I maybe hadn't before, and just getting like kind of revisiting bands that I listened to when I was like 19, 18 years old, early 20s, kind of listening to old stuff and being like excited by it again, like, oh yeah, I remember how fun this was. And I think that's kind of part of what's sort of driven some of the maybe the newer stuff that we have, is it's more rooted in like shorter songs, quick, power chords, kind of punky stuff, and trying to just make like a really good like rock and roll record, I guess, was sort of the goal of the batch of songs we've been doing.
I love going back and revisiting the old stuff that I remember brought a smile to my face and haven't listened to it in years, and just letting it bring a smile back to my face and making me remember when, that feeling I had when I first heard it.
Some of it holds up, some of it doesn't, but some of it's like, this is still really good.
So speaking on those terms, do you happen to remember your first like musical memory when music changed in your life, when you first heard something that completely changed your thought about music?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably cite a couple of those like at different periods of my life, but I would say this is so funny because I can't speak for everyone, of course, but some of my early music discoveries and things that I, connected with for whatever reason, even if at the time I was too young to even understand what I was connecting with, I still love to this day. And it's also things that like shaped me in terms of the music that I continued to sort of seek out, the music that I like playing in terms of like being in a band and the kind of songs I like writing. And my earliest one that I can think of, if I can give you a more long-winded answer, would be Rick Springfield. That's like the Rick Springfield Working Class Dog. That album was one of when I was, I don't know how old I was, 6 years old or something. And the first time I ever heard that, I was just like, this is my shit. I don't know why. But I just loved it.
I mean, I know why, because it's that catchy power pop hooks that just grab you and don't let you go.
Yeah, but I guess like, even being like 5 years old or 6 years old or however, I don't know how old I was at that time, but that wasn't my rationale behind like, liking it. I wasn't like, oh, this is a great power pop song. I just was like, this is great, and I still like that album. Like I could listen to it right now and I would enjoy the shit out of it. So, yeah, I mean, I would say Adam and the Ants and Rick Springfield were like two bands that I loved and fell in love with like head over heels when I was a little kid, and to this day still love it.
That's awesome. Well, so that's a great sense of, first discovery. I mean, where did it go from there? Like, when did it start to, because the music you're playing is, not along those lines. So when did you start to find diverse stuff? Did you grow up with older siblings like I did and steal from them?
Yeah, my brother, I have an older brother, so the older sibling thing is definitely true for me. I have an older brother who's named David. He's like 4.5 years older than me, and so when he was a sophomore in high school, I was in fifth or sixth grade, still in elementary school, and I remember him playing me Nevermind the Bollocks when I was like in fifth or sixth grade. And and that was like one of those albums.
How'd your parents let that go happen?
They probably weren't aware of it and probably weren't happy about it, but yeah, I mean, that's another one of those pivotal kind of moments for me, was hearing the Sex Pistols when I was 11. I think you're around 11 years old when you're in sixth grade, and like that just being like a life-changing sort of record, and sort of literally, because I that was sort of that was my musical direction from that point forward. Was like I got into punk. I was really into hearing the Sex Pistols. I was into like the Hairspray stuff. I really I loved Poison. I thought Look What the Cat Dragged In was like the Cat's pajamas. And I still like that album too. If I listen to that one, I'm like, hell yeah, this album rips.
Yeah, I saw him a couple of years ago because it was like $7. I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to see Poison. And Cheap Trick opened for him. So I was like, I get a double dose. I get Cheap Trick also, who I love. I was like, I'm all in.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I saw Cheap Trick here in Austin maybe like 7 years ago. But they ripped. But yeah, that'd be a good one, Poison and Cheap Trick. But yeah, I mean, I was listening to Motley Crue and Poison, and I liked that stuff. And then when I heard the Sex Pistols, I had a little bit of like an overlap where I was like still really into Poison, but I was also listening to the Sex Pistols and get into like the Clash, and a lot of like the British punk was the first that I was exposed to by my brother.
Yeah, like I mean, my feeling on punk, and listen, that's how I grew up too. Like when I found punk, it was something completely like that I'd never heard before, and it kind of made like music accessible to me. It kind of made me have that feeling of, hey, maybe I could do this too. You know, in that sense, because that's what punk was. It was slamming on those 3 power chords and just saying what's on your mind. I mean, is that something that drove you to want to play music, or was there something else that came across your life that you heard and said, I want to be a musician because of this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm a real late bloomer to being a musician. Actually, I didn't start playing guitar until I was 18, probably 17 or 18. So I got into like punk music, and I've always been a big music fan, like dating back to, hearing Rick Springfield. My dad was a car salesman, and he would get trade-ins on cars at the dealership he worked at. This when we were kids. Me and my siblings.
The tape deck?
Yeah, they would leave, like people would trade in cars and they would leave like cassettes in the glove box or whatever. So if they never came back for them, he would bring them home and he'd give them to my brother and sister and I, and we would kind of like divvy them up and look to see who wanted what. So I had like I had Rick Springfield, I had Adam and the Ants, we had Blondie, had Culture Club, Michael Jackson, like it was all the cool 80s stuff,
Yeah.
And so that was kind of what we got exposed to as kids, and that was the first, like secular music, that we were kind of like listening to was MTV, like the 80s MTV stuff, Devo, whatever else during that period. But so we got into all that stuff, and then when I got into punk when I was in like 6th grade from my brother, I never during that time did I ever really think about being a musician. I just liked music. I loved it. I was just always listening to music as a kid and always loved it. And then my friend Tucker, who I'd grown up with, he's to this day a friend of mine. I've known him since I was 4 years old. He started playing guitar when we were in junior high in like 8th grade. And he got where he was getting good at playing guitar, and I'd go to his house and we'd be listening to records and he'd be playing guitar, and I just was like, oh, it's cool that Tucker plays guitar, but I still never really thought about doing it myself. He and I did start a band when we were in high school where I was the singer in the band, and I just just stood there with the microphone and sang, and he was like the guitarist in the band, but I didn't start playing guitar until I was a senior in high school, I think. And that was all inspired by Dinosaur Jr. of all bands.
Well, listen, if you want it loud, just stand next to Maskus.
Yeah. It's weird. It's funny to think back on that was probably a combination of Tucker, my good friend, playing guitar and seeing him be able to do it. Kind of what you were saying about punk is that you'd listen to it and you'd be like, I could do this. This is something that it gave you kind of hope. It gave you sort of this drive to kind of pursue it yourself. That's, I think, maybe what Tucker did for me with guitar playing was that I saw like, oh, my friend's doing this. He's getting good at this. Maybe I could do that too. But one of the other things was Dinosaur Jr., because I just was obsessed with Dinosaur Jr. for this period of time in my life, and hearing Jay play, and it just made that was kind of the nail in the coffin where I was like, I have to like learn how to do that. I want to start doing that. So
listen, if you're using that for inspiration to learn how to play, you're looking at Maskus and all the licks he puts out. I mean, that's some, I would have been more towards, like the first Sebadoh with Lou Barlow recording in his basement, not knowing what he's doing to say, oh, I could do that.
That was kind of the period. Like I got into punk music. I was really into that. My friend Tucker and I would, and my friend Matt, we would all like, once you kind of got bit by that bug, you were always seeking things out, so what started as the Sex Pistols and the Clash when I was in 6th grade, that turned into, getting into all the SST bands, including Dinosaur, like the Descendants and Husker Du and, Sonic Youth and like all those bands, Black Flag. Like we were getting into all that. We were going the kind of British punk direction as well. So we were getting into a lot of those bands like the Buzzcocks and the Jam. And, it was like you just couldn't absorb enough, and that's kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about thinking back on happier times. Like that this year, that was the thing that was sort of keeping me afloat, so to speak, was that I was getting excited about sort of rediscovering things that I hadn't listened to in a long time. And that was kind of what was a lot of fun about this year, was just kind of being like, oh, I haven't listened to this, Tilt album and, 20 years or something, and you play it and you're like, holy shit, it's still great,
She killed her vocals were unbelievable. And she was like my punk goddess.
Yeah.
That the first Tilt album is one of the greatest unsung punk albums with a female vocalist of all time. In my estimation. That's my opinion, and nobody cares, but
I wouldn't disagree. I mean, I think that Play Cell is great. The one after it, Till It Kills, is also really, really good if you haven't heard that one. Anyway.
So so you take that to want to learn to play music later on in your senior year, and did you have any aspirations of like thinking in your mind that you'd be putting music out for people around the world to listen, for people like me, in New Jersey, to find you on Bandcamp one day and seek you out?
No, I mean, of course not. But I just my friend Matt and I, when we were seniors in high school, neither one of us played an instrument, but we'd known each other since we were like 8th grade, and we were big skateboarders. We were super into skating, and those dudes that skate like 13 hours a day every day, rain or shine, And when we were seniors, we were so into music by that point that I think we literally, like the summer before my senior year, were like, hey, we should start a band, and we were talking about starting a band before we even owned instruments, much less, knew how to play them. So but that's how it happened. I mean, we just kind of went, let's start a band. What do you want to play? I want to play drums. Okay, let's get you a drum set. I want to play guitar. So we started, going around to pawn shops and looking for equipment to buy, and we literally bought instruments, and within like 3 months we were very poorly playing them, but we were trying to like do a band together. And then we got this guy Brian to play bass, who my brother knew and recommended, and because he liked all the same music that we did. He was a big like Descendants fan. He was a big fan of All, 7 Seconds, like all the that kind of stuff. And so I went into this grocery store that I knew he worked at and just kind of was like, hey, do you want to start a band with me and my friend? And this is the kind of music that we want to do. And he's like, oh yeah, that sounds great. But he had no idea that we were dog shit at our instruments. but to his credit, he played with us anyway, because we actually were playing music that no one else where we grew up was even remotely interested in. So he was like, I don't care if y'all suck, you want to do stuff like Descendants and Husker Du and stuff. And so I'm in, and he was a very accomplished bass player playing with these two ding dongs who had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah. It's funny that, when you say Descendants and you say All, like I'm one of those people. I grew up with the Descendants, but I fell in love with All. Roy Smalley, when I heard Roy Smalley voice on the first All, I'm like, wow, this is where I needed to be.
Yeah.
The Descendants brought me somewhere, but All kept me there.
Yeah, I was, it's funny. Have you seen that documentary, Filmage? I'm assuming you watched it.
Yep.
I was such a fan of both bands, and obviously knowing that they were, essentially it was a lot of the same guys.
Yeah, but, it's basically it's Carl Alvarez and Bill Stevenson, and just different singers.
Yeah, and the guitarist, like the last lineup of Descendants with the Descendants All went on to be All, but yeah, I didn't know until that documentary came out that there was this like group of people that were like, All sucks. You're not the Descendants, you suck. And I was like, what? That was a thing? I didn't even know that was a thing, because I was in such love with both bands that I couldn't even fathom people being like, this band sucks because they're not the Descendants. That's just crazy.
Yeah, it was with that band too. It was like one of those things where, like when Scott Reynolds started Goodbye Harry, I enjoyed every singer they had. And then like Scott Reynolds did Goodbye Harry. And at that time I was like, it sounded to me like Big Drill Car. And I was like, I'm loving everything that's going on here. And there was that people were like, fuck All, you're not the Descendants. And it's like, well, it sort of is. It's just, a little more catchy.
Yeah. It was more like proggy too, All was more musically technical and in a more consistent way, But yeah, I mean, I was a big fan. I liked Dave Smalley era. I really love the Scott Reynolds stuff. That Always Revenge to me is like flawless. It's just like every song on it's incredible. Always Saves is amazing. I love all those albums. And it's just funny. I had no idea that there were people who didn't if I didn't understand how you couldn't love both bands.
I still have my All Right for Prez shirt that I had in high school. So.
Oh, awesome. That's so cool.
So when you were putting together a band and you were dog shit, as you so eloquently put it, I mean, I know it's tough to want to focus on getting better, but did you have some kind of drive or aspirations or something pushing you to just want to keep going? Was it the friendship you had with, in starting that band, or was it something where you were just like you were enjoying creating and that's where you got your enjoyment to want to keep going and want to learn and get better?
Yeah, I don't know, honestly. I think just being a big music fan and then playing music and kind of seeing that I could do it, and that we could do it. Like, oh, our band doesn't suck as bad as we used to, oh, we're getting better, and then because when we started out, we were playing cover songs because,
that's what you got to do.
Yeah, that's what you do. That's how we learned our instruments, was learning, Misfit songs and Ramones songs and anything that was just 3 or 4 chords. And we would, play cover songs, Husker Du songs. And that's what we covered. And then at some point we said we should start writing our own stuff. And we kind of tried that. And those were, obviously terrible songs. And but we kept doing it. And I guess over time, we got to where we were pretty good. And then we started writing songs that were not terrible. And we put out, we recorded. I think that's what we did. Is the band I was in was called Jill, Jill, like the girl's name, Jill. And we started this band called Jill, and we ended up recording a demo.
Is it Just Like Fonzie?
Yep. That was a EP that we put out. Yeah. It was called Just Like Fonzie, but we did a demo of 4 songs.
I still blast it, man.
Do you have Just Like Fonzie? You know what that is?
I haven't. Yes, it's got Fonzie on the cover, and it's a black and white picture with blue writing on it, and I still have it right here in front of me in my CD collection.
Holy crap! I didn't know that you were a Jill fan. Okay, very cool. So then you know what that is.
I like your other band, the Fall Collection, too. You got Words That Are Too Big for Your Mouth is a fucking banger to me. So yeah.
Okay, well, cool. I wasn't aware.
What's funny is I'm staring right now at the 4th CD down in the stack that is right here is Jill. And I didn't even plan it. It's just sitting right there.
That's so funny. It's small worldy stuff because Snappy Little Numbers is the label that put out our 7-inch that we did in this past December. And the guy Chuck Coffey, who runs that label, we were talking on the phone about something, and I was like, oh yeah, he's out of Denver. And I was like, oh, I used to play in this band, and we used to always go play in Boulder, and we always had all these fun shows in Colorado. And he's like, what band were you in? And when I told him Jill, he was like, oh my God, I went and saw y'all all the time. He didn't even know that I was the guy who was, who was in that band from the 90s or whatever. But he was like, oh shit, I'm a big fan. Holy crap. I didn't even know that was you. I didn't put it together or whatever.
Well, what's funny is, I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't know you were in Jill until you just mentioned it. But when you said Jill, I was like, holy shit, I listened to it all the time back in the day. And,
so funny.
I have to, I know the Fall Collection and Gentleman Rogues, and the fact that you said Jill, and I'm literally holding your CD in my hand right now. I'm like, holy,
that's so funny.
Fuck.
Hang on to it. It's those are hard to find, apparently.
Well, I hate to tell you this. I have 2 copies of it.
Cool.
One is in a binder, when you used to have the CD binder, and this one I bought at my local record store for 50 cents like a couple weeks ago. That's why it's right there.
That's hilarious. Yeah, Chuck was like, I think that's the one thing he didn't have was that CD, and he's like, I can't find it, and I think he saw one on Discogs or something that was like, he's like, it's kind of expensive, but in retrospect, it was probably like $6, and he wanted it for 50 cents. It's kind of pricey.
This is in great shape. He can reach out to me, man.
I'll have to pass that on. But yeah, we did that band, Jill. We recorded a demo, like a 4-song cassette, and we sent it out. This is how we somehow, I can't tell you the story as to why, but somewhere along the lines we got kind of driven to like want to do music and want to put things out. And I guess we had some songs and we recorded them and we sent this demo out to just, little labels like Lookout, Fat Records, Dr. Strange, like all those labels that were going on. Liquid Meat was another one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and then this label Springbox, who we sent one to, like wrote us a letter back. This is all pre-internet, and wrote a letter back going, "Hey, we love these songs. Like, let's do a 7-inch." And that was kind of that moment where you're like, that was kind of maybe what you're talking about, where when someone kind of validated what you were doing. And we're like, hey, we will put money into this and we'll make a record for you, was like totally holy shit kind of moment where you're like, whoa, someone likes our stuff,
I have the 7-inch too.
With the Fozzie Bear on it?
Yep.
Yep, that's the one. So that Springbox put that out. And that was just getting that letter that was like, it's like your acceptance letter into college or something. Like someone wants to put out a record for you. And that was like just still to this day, get excited if someone goes, hey, we want to, snappy little numbers. Like, we'll put out this 7-inch. You're like, what? You will? It's still exciting, so.
Yeah, well, it does. You said it. Validation. I mean, that's, and when it comes to music, we've said it here millions of times, like it only takes one song and it only takes one person to notice that song to make an artist just be like, well, fuck it, I did it.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. And that sort of pushed you even more, once you kind of were like, oh, people like this and like someone wants to spend money on us and put out a record for us, and that validation kind of pushed us to be even more driven, like, oh, maybe we can do this. It was like hope that like you could do music on some level, and where that would end up, who would know, but it made you want to try harder and made you want to do more of that. And that's what we did. I mean, with Jill, we did that band for 6 years or something, I can't remember. But we toured, we did the whole DIY, calling up clubs, calling up kids who would let us play in their basement. We booked all of our own tours. We did everything ourselves. I mean, we were essentially, that's where we just learned that DIY ethic, was just like being in that band and talking to other bands and seeing other bands, when we would travel, see the way they would do things. And that inspired us to start putting on DIY shows in our hometown of San Angelo, Texas, which is like, population 100,000 people. It's not a very big place. And so we started doing DIY shows in this building that we rehearsed in, and had a bunch of cool bands come through. We did shows out at this barn for a while, and had like Jimmy Eat World played in San Angelo, like when they were just starting out 3 times. Zoinks played there. They were on Dr. Strange. Squirt Gun, a Lookout band, played there. I mean, like, so we had some really cool bands come through that we just, learned, how do you say this? Like, sort of there's just kind of a networking thing that happened, through like writing letters, playing shows with bands in other cities when we would go on tour. I think that's how we got to be friends with those guys in Zoinks, was we played a show with them in Birmingham, Alabama or something. And and I'm a left-handed guitar player, and Zach and Rob were both left-handed, so we had this like immediate like, oh, you're left-handed too, and we're immediate friends because we were all southpaws, and then we liked each other's bands, and then when they would tour, we booked shows for them in San Angelo, and I think we played another show with them while we were both out on tour in like Salt Lake City or something. So those guys were friends of ours. Jimmy Eat World were friends of ours. We knew the guys in Squirt Gun, a couple of them. So we just, I don't know, it was just like a fun time in life because everything was like exciting and you never really knew what was going to happen next. And that was kind of part of the appeal, you know?
Yeah. And you know, by the way you talk about it, and it's one of those things that I think everyone longs for in their life, is you created a sense of community with those other bands, and you were able to all live off the same experiences, and you were able to come together in that way because you were all experiencing the same things at the same time for a lot of it the first time.
Yeah. And we had a sense of community in San Angelo, which is like back then it lacked culture like altogether. I mean, there was just nothing there. And if you were a teenager who was into punk rock or alternative rock or whatever, there was nothing for you. You know, like bars were all 21 and up. You wouldn't want to play at any of them anyway because they were just like divey shit hole places. And so like once I remember seeing in Mississippi, we played shows in Mississippi, and they were doing shows in like JC halls and in people's living rooms and stuff, and we were like, we could do this. Like I didn't realize you could have a show in a living room. But then it was like, well, why not? Like, why couldn't you do that? But it was like so eye-opening, you know, at the time, to just be like, oh, you could just do shows wherever you want, you know?
Yeah, as long as you had a place to plug in.
Yeah, you've got electricity, you've got a PA, like, do a show. And so we started doing that kind of stuff, and it was just like, it was fun. And it built this, like, scene, you know, in San Angelo a bit. Enough of a scene where when bands were touring through Texas, you know, they would call me up and we'd book a show for them at this rehearsal space we had. And it could hold about 60 people crammed in. And we had some really killer shows happen there in retrospect.
Wow. So I'm still blown away that you were in Jill, because I'll be perfectly honest. There were two bands back in like 96 that two CDs that I kind of constantly played. One was Jill, and the other one was a band called Hank Shaw.
Oh, I know Hank Shaw.
Yeah. So Hank Shaw's first album was one of those albums that still to this day, I think I played it like how we were talking about finding something again and listening to it. I literally was just like, man, you know what? I was like, Hank Shaw, and I put it on. I was like, fuck, I still love it. Like, it was still fantastic to me, to bringing me back to that time when it was like, wow, this is fucking great. But honestly, I'm not lying, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, because I don't do that. But Jill and Hank Shaw were the two bands that from like 96 were the bands that I was just like, this is it. This is exactly what I wanted and needed in my life.
Oh man, that's awesome. I have a Hank Shaw EP. It's like a 4-song. It's called
Every Day I Wish You Harm.
Every Day I Wish You Harm. Yep. And it's got that Hit Me With Your Best Shot cover on it. I remember thinking that was really great. They were an interesting band. I've never really like dug into them very deep, but hearing you say that their album...
you can't, because they only have one other album, and it's called King Candy. And if you're looking for, Every Day I Wish You Harm type of music, King Candy is not it. It is like a soulful Mississippi sounding, like completely different.
Oh, weird.
That's the only other album that they did.
They have nothing personal though. That's a full length, right? Yeah,
that was their full length. But the second full length is called King Candy, that came out like 9 years later. And it's one of those things where you're like, what this is not the same band. And then you look it up and everyone's the same and you're like, whoa.
Weird. Yeah, I wonder what the story is there. Yeah, and the guy's vocals I remember were like real, like he kind of sounded not to be, insensitive because that's
no, but he sounded like a female. Yeah,
he sounded like a female.
Yeah, he had that high falsetto voice, and I was like, when I first heard it, I thought it was a female, and then I'm like, oh, it's not. But then it was catchy. Like after I just worked past that, I was like, wow, I fucking love this.
Yeah, well, you make me want to dive into that because I only have that 4-song EP. That's the only thing I ever got of theirs, and you make me want to listen to that Nothing Personal record. So I'm gonna have
That's what we do here. We try to bring shit up that you get back into things.
Yeah, I never got exposed to that LP, so I'm kind of excited to listen to it now. Cool. Now I'm starting to wonder if we have some mutual friends that maybe we're unaware of because you're in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And did you ever see Jill play? Because we toured on the East Coast this one summer and we played like 3 or 4 shows in New Jersey. We hung out in New Jersey for like a week. Because
we probably do have mutual friends somewhere, and I believe I did see you play as Jill, because I'm trying to think back, and because I think when I bought the 7-inch, I was at a show. So
okay, interesting. Yeah, we played at a place called the Pipeline. That was in, I don't know. I was going to say Newark, but I don't think that's right. Yeah, we played some DIY shows there, like basement shows. But do you know Alan Rappaport? He worked at Flipside.
Yep, that's where I purchased almost all my music growing up.
Yeah. So Alan is, we're still friends, but we don't like keep in touch that much, but he's still a buddy of mine. And back then he and I were super good friends. And like, he came out on tour with us on one of our tours and like kind of, quote unquote roadied. And he set up a bunch of shows for us in New Jersey that was probably 96 or 97. And we played with his band True Zero. And there was a really awesome band we played shows with called the Lavalinas. I don't know if you remember them, but I
don't remember the Lavalinas now.
Yeah, they were one of those bands that you were like, don't break up. You guys will be really great someday. But I think they broke up.
The age-old adage of, man, this band's fucking amazing. Don't ever break up, and you get 2 albums out of them, and you're like, oh, why?
Or in the Lavalinas case, I don't think a single album came out. I think they had a demo tape that we listened to, and it was terrible. It sounded like it was recorded on a 4-track that was shoved up someone's butthole, and it just sounded terrible. But the songs were so good that you like looked past how terrible the production was. It was so... it happens.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway.
We're going down the nostalgia fucking rabbit hole that is life.
Yeah, New Jersey is kind of like a sentimental place for Jill. When I think about Jill, I always think some of our favorite shows and some of our favorite shows were probably happening in New Jersey. We had like fans there, and we were one of those,
right here.
Yeah, but we were one of those bands, like, depending on where we were, we had like really good shows, and then we could go somewhere else. And, like when we played in like Arizona, for some reason, we always had really good shows there. Like we had fans there, which was like weird to us. I remember like the last Jill tour, someone calling my name, like we were like walking down a sidewalk that was like a few blocks from the club, and it's like, hey, Danny, and I like turn around thinking it's someone in the band or something, but it was just like some dude who recognized me from the band. And I remember just being like, oh, that's weird, like he knows who I am and I don't know who he is. And I remember
do
thinking,
I have a fan? Do I have a fan?
Yeah, and it was weird. Like it was just kind of and I don't mean that to sound like, oh, I didn't realize I was famous. I don't mean that, but it was like one of those things where you were like recognized by doing this music thing. And
validation, man, goes back to validation, right?
I guess. On some level, I just thought it was like weird that we actually had fans, and then you would see we'd play shows and like people would be singing the songs, and you're like, oh, weird, because this was all pre-internet, and so you knew the music because you bought the records or you came and saw us play, And then like in New Jersey, it was the same way. We could play in New Jersey and we would draw like, for us, like 200 people or something. And we're like, which isn't crazy, but
no, but it is in that time with no internet and no knowing what's going on.
It was 200 people that knew our music, and that knew our songs, and they were like fans. And then we could drive to, I don't know, like, Tallahassee, Florida, and play for 2 people, and one of them's the bartender, So it was like, so it just was like, it was just, that's kind of how it was. We had certain pockets of places where we did well, and then, when it wasn't that, it was like feast or famine, I guess they call that.
So when that was over, I mean, how? Because I know when things end, it's always hard to begin again. Did you slow down? Did you stop and just say, I need to do something else? Or was, music still a huge part of, I think music is a bigger part of everyone's life than they're willing to admit, but especially for a musician.
Yeah.
Was it, this is over. Do I start something new or do I look to do something else? What was that like for you?
Yeah, we did. So Matt played drums and Jill, and I sang and played guitar. And we always had like kind of lineup problems, I suppose. Like I think we probably had about 6 or 7 members come and go just over the years, but kind of like the Descendants, like Matt, the drummer, and I, the singer, guitarist. Not that Milo was a guitarist, but we were always the constants. Like we started the band and we were in it till the end. Where the bassist and additional guitarist, sometimes we were a 3-piece, sometimes we had a 4th, guitar player. We were always the constants, and when the last lineup of the band was. Jay Matthews, who was the bass player, and he had been in the band for a long time, so he was on the Just Like Fonzie CD, and he had been in the band. He was in the band longer than he wasn't. He was kind of like became a staple to the band. And then this other guy, this guy named Leonard, played second guitar. And Leonard was like one of those guys who was like maybe too good for us. Like he was a really good guitar player. In my mind back then, I was like, Leonard's like a great guitar player. And I'm still playing the same power chords I've been playing all this since I was 17 or whatever. And with that lineup of the band was like the best the band ever was in terms of like just the way we sounded. We were really tight. Leonard was adding like guitar parts to songs that didn't have them before, like there'd be like a song off just like Fonzie, and he would like he'd write a second guitar part for the song that was never there, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this song sounds so much cooler now. Yeah. Why didn't we record it? Like why weren't you always in the band? That's kind of what it felt like. And so we did this tour with Leonard, and we, in San Angelo, something else to mention is that because there was no culture there was nothing to do. We rehearsed, I'm not kidding, every day. I mean, we got together, I swear, every day and like played music. We're just every night we'd meet up at the rehearsal space and we would run through the set. We'd sit around and shoot the crap for like an hour. We'd play some more music. We'd just dork around and do like cover songs. Like we're always playing. And I swear, I'm not exaggerating, at least 6 nights a week we did this. And so we were really, really tight. And we never played bad. It was just one of those like, sometimes bands will go, oh, I had an off night tonight. We never had that. We always like, whether you liked us or not was one thing, but we always were really good. And with that lineup of the band, we were especially good because we not only were we super tight, but Leonard was also this great guitar player who made our songs all sound better. And so we did the band like that for a while. We did this tour. We at this point had kind of networked with enough people that we were getting people to kind of come out and see us, and like do you know that label Drive Through Records?
Yeah.
So Alan knew Richard and Steph somehow. I'm not sure what the connection there was, but when we were touring, we did a West Coast tour, and we we had like an A&R guy come out from Mojo Records, who like Goldfinger was signed to that, and and I think Richard and Steph got this A&R guy to come out and see us, and so we played this show at this club called the Dragonfly. We played after Brian Jonestown Massacre. Which was weird because I realized at the show, it was like, why like this show's going on till like 2 a.m. and we haven't even, like, this band's still playing. It was like no one even knew we were playing. It was weird. I don't know. I could probably talk about that for like 20 minutes, but it was a really weird night. We were so pissed that Brian Jonestown Massacre, like, were playing forever, and this was before they got big and anyone knew who they were, but they had all pretty much the same members, and that guy Joel, who was like playing the tambourine all the time, and he's standing in front of the stage just like smoking and playing tambourine for like what seemed like 2.5 hours. And we were so pissed while they were playing because we're like, why won't they stop? And in retrospect, they probably didn't even know there was a band after them. Like, they probably was not their fault. But we were like, these guys are dickheads. They like won't stop playing. And so by the time they finally ended the set, we start scurrying and bringing our amps up on stage as fast as we can, because we're like, everyone's going to leave. They think the show's over and we're going to play for this empty room. And we were so mad that we just made fun of Brian Jones Massacre on the stage, like while like in between songs we were just like talking shit, and like I was doing like an impersonation of Joel playing like an air tambourine and stuff, and when like I wasn't playing guitar, I would act like I was playing tambourine, and we were just being complete turds. But then after our set was over, I went out to go find our van, and those guys were all like sitting in their van right outside of the club, and they were giving me this serious stink eye. Like, I was kind of nervous that they were going to maybe jump me when I got a couple of blocks away from the club. But we made Brian Jonestown Massacre really mad. But they didn't say anything to us, so
they were scared.
They're scared. I mean, I was all of 97 pounds at that time. And
exactly. That's
very intimidating.
Yeah, they saw a punk. They're like, yeah, well, they're a punk band, so
Yeah, that guy looks like the singer from Weezer if he weighed 20 pounds. Scary stuff. But yeah, we did this. We played that show. We had the A&R guy come from Mojo, and the next day we were staying with Richard and Steph at Drive-Thru. He called us at their house and was like, hey, do you guys want to come record like a demo? And I want to submit it to, the guy who owns Mojo or whatever. So we were like, yeah, of course. So we met him at this studio that was like in the backyard of this mansion, if I remember right. And the studio was real small. It was just like a garage that was built into a studio, but it had all these tapes, like reel-to-reel tapes of like Motorhead and Iggy Pop and all this stuff on the shelves. And we were like, whoa, that's crazy. But we did this 3-song demo and recorded it. He, took it to Mojo, and we basically got home from that trip and like broke up. So, I mean, the reasons like why the band broke up, I know I'm giving you like a crazy long answer to your question.
I love it.
We got home from that tour, and Leonard, this is what I didn't mention. So Leonard played in another band that he was kind of like the singer, guitarist, songwriter in that band, and they were kind of like Hum or something. It was like real heavy, kind of drop D, melodic and heavy. And the guys
a little shoegazy on the end,
yeah, a little bit like, it was kind of like Hum. I would say like Sunny Day Real Estate meets Hum or something like that. And they're really cool. But we got home from that tour, and those guys who he played in that band with were kind of like gave the ultimatum, like, I guess they didn't like not being able to rehearse and do stuff, and it was kind of like, Leonard, you're more into that band than this one, and it's either them or us kind of thing. And so because that was sort of his creative outlet and that was his thing, he chose to kind of go and do that other band. So he ended up quitting our band And I think at the time, because we had so many like lineup changes, and it seemed like we were every like year and a half or something, we were like, oh, we need another guitar player again, or oh, someone quit the band, or oh, we got to get rid of this person, or it seemed like that was always happening. And when Leonard quit, it felt to me like we're not going to be as good as we were. And that's kind of where my headspace was at the time. And I just remember thinking like, well, yeah, we could go on as a 3-piece, but we won't be as good as we were. With like this last like 2 years of the band, we've like kicked ass and we sound great. And then it was like, well, we're not going to be as good. And it just kind of took all the wind out of my sails, I suppose. And I just lost interest in kind of trying to hold it together. I think I was kind of like tired or something.
Yeah.
Like I eventually just kind of went like, I think I just need to stop doing this, you know?
Yeah. You need that big exhale and be like, okay, what's next?
Yeah. And it was kind of a little bit of what's next because Jay, who played bass in Jill, he started playing second guitar in Leonard's other band. And Matt and I, just for fun, we started another band that we called QUIMBY, which is kind of like the predecessor to the Fall Collection, I suppose. But QUIMBY was a band that Matt and I did, and the whole sort of goal of QUIMBY was gonna be like one of those like K Records bands. You know, we were gonna be like super jangly, no distortion, you know, just like. Yeah. Super poppy, and kind of wanted to be like Tullycraft or I don't know if you're familiar with that band, but like Beat Happening, and like we wanted to do this kind of more like indie rock jangly band, and that isn't what QUIMBY ended up becoming. It ended up becoming just kind of like a you know, power pop rock band or whatever, but that was the goal. And then when Leonard quit and Jill broke up, Matt and I were just like, well, let's just do QUIMBY, you know. And we kind of did. I think that's kind of what happened. We sort of just started doing QUIMBY, and there was probably a little bit of a break, but we were friends, kind of going back to Weezer, actually. We were friends with Michael and Carly, who ran their like official fan club. And Carly was a good friend of mine, and Michael and her were sisters, and then they had another sister named Trista who lived in Provo, Utah, who we stayed with on that last Jill tour and stuff. So we knew like all the Allen sisters, Michael, Carly, and Trista, and they all got killed in a car wreck, like 1998 or something, 99.
Wow.
And their friend, who knew that I was good friends with Carly, hit us up and was like, you know, there's this tribute CD that's getting put together. You know, we're trying to get all, you know, their friends' bands to like contribute a song to it. And Jill was broken up. We hadn't been a band for, you know, maybe 6 months to a year at that point. And so Matt and this girl, Jennifer, who we got to play bass. Jennifer and I were kind of doing like the sicko thing where we were like, she would sing, she'd play guitar, and I'd play bass. And then I would play guitar and sing, and she would play bass, and we kind of do the switcheroo thing.
It's funny that you mentioned that. Sicko. You'll find out at the end of the show.
We'll talk about Sicko. I still love that band too. But yeah, so we weren't a band, but we had this song that we kind of carried over from the end of Jill. Jill had broken up, and we had a couple of songs that we hadn't recorded, or we recorded them, but they were never got released or anything. So we just were like, we'll just take those 2 old Jill songs and make them QUIMBY songs. And that's kind of what started, you know, got QUIMBY going, was a couple of discarded Jill songs or whatever. But we ended up recording a song as QUIMBY and contributed it to that compilation CD. So there's a compilation CD called Hear You Me, which Jimmy Eat World ended up going on to write a song called Hear You Me that's on Bleed American. But the Hear You Me is from a Weezer song called Michael and Carly. And the compilation is called Hear You Me, and it's got QUIMBY on it, but it's also got like the song Michael and Carly by Weezer is on it. There's That Dog is on it. Beck is on it. Like, so we were this like band that barely was a band. We had been together for like 6 months, and the first thing we did was got on a comp with Weezer and Beck and Kara's Flowers, which went on to be Maroon 5.
Maroon 5, yep.
Yeah, so it was like we were like all like the big leagues with the. So then the label that put it out was this label called Vast, and they were like, we're gonna promote this and we're gonna push a single, and they chose the QUIMBY song to be like the single of that compilation, and I guess they pushed to like radio and stuff. So we got a lot of attention from like the very beginning of our band, but we weren't really a band, and we didn't really last very long. We were only together for about a year, but it was kind of weird because we had like people emailing us and being like, do y'all need an agent? And we're like, we only have 2 songs.
We need a band.
But yeah, we need songs. We literally had 2 songs at the time that people were like, do y'all need an agent? Do you like record labels were kind of getting in touch, and we're like, I think that I just ignored the emails because I was like, oh shit, like we're not ready for any of this. I don't know. I don't remember what happened with that, but I remember we got some attention that we maybe weren't ready for, and it just kind of fizzled because we never pursued it. But it was weird time.
Yeah. How long after that until you did the fall collection?
So the fall collection came about 2000.
Is that 6?
Yeah, we started a little earlier than that. 2003, I think is when we started. So when QUIMBY broke up. So here's the funny thing: is like Leonard's band ended up the band that he quit Jill to kind of stay with. They ended up breaking up like not long after Jill did.
Of course.
So we did. So Matt and Jennifer and I were doing QUIMBY, and then Jennifer didn't want to do it, so she left. And then we got our friend Albert to come in, and he was kind of playing bass with us, and we were kind of doing that for a little bit. And then Albert, I think, left, and then Leonard and Chris, who played bass in Leonard's band Never Fetter, that's what they were called. I don't think I ever mentioned their name. We were like, well, do y'all want to join up in QUIMBY? So Leonard, Chris, Matt, and I would then became QUIMBY. And so we were a 4-piece band, and we were kind of like the Get Up Kids or something. Like that would be the closest thing I could compare it to, but it was still kind of like still had a little bit of the pop punkiness, but then it had this more kind of serious stuff that like Leonard and Chris were doing, and kind of this Sunny Day Real Estate hum influence meets like, Weston or something, it was like this weird, which I guess, when you mash those things together, it sounds like the Get Up Kids or something, but so we did QUIMBY. Yeah, we did QUIMBY, and we did that for about a year with that lineup. And then I think that like with that band, everyone was like Matt had like a more serious job. Like he got like a management position, at his job. And I think Chris had a job where he wasn't really going to be able to like tour. And so it kind of became like, well, 50% of the band is basically saying they're not going to be able to tour. And then we lived in San Angelo, which is like, well, playing locally is dumb. There's like nothing really here. So it just kind of felt like, well, we're never going to do anything, like we're just going to be a local band in San Angelo, which is just kind of silly. At the time, that's how I felt about it. And so I think that was the moment where I was like, okay, I just need to do something else, like with my life, period. And so I moved away from San Angelo and started going to college in San Marcos, Texas, and so I was taking classes in San Angelo, and then I ended up moving away and going to just get a degree in San Marcos, which is like 45 minutes south of Austin, which is where I live now. But yeah, I got a degree in school, but like my last year of college, I was like, I really want to be in a band again, and so I met this guy, Josh. Some, I don't remember how I met him. I think I was working like my day job outside of school. I met his girlfriend through like work, and then I would see her around, and like at Blockbuster, be like, oh, that's that girl who I talked to at work or whatever. And then her boyfriend was Josh, and then we met and started talking, and we had a lot of the same interest in music and stuff. And one thing led to another. We started playing together just kind of as a two-piece. And we ended up getting my other friend Danny to play bass, and we started the Fall Collection, and we did that for like 5 years or something, 4 years.
And now we're at the Gentleman Rogues.
Yeah, finally. Do you have any of the Fall Collection stuff? Do you have that CD?
Actually, I don't. I want it. I downloaded the songs.
I'll send it to you. I'll send you a CD. I'm actually got one on my desk right now that I'll send to you. And I'll send you...
Well, I just took a picture of the Jill CD so I can send it to you with the 50-cent sticker so you can post it with that.
Oh, sweet. It's got the price tag on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you a Fall Collection CD if you want to have a physical one. But we did Fall Collection for 4 or 5 years. We toured a couple of times, kind of ran its course.
Yeah, and listen, I do say Words That Are Too Big for Your Mouth is a fucking banger that is just amazing. So anybody listening to this, if you look up Fall Collection, for me, go to that, and it'll then listen to everything else, and you understand why this Gentleman Rogues for me is bringing me. It kind of reminds me, it's a little nostalgic, and it's that you mentioned a band Sicko. When I first heard the first song from Gentleman Rogues, I was like, this reminds me of something. And it was a little bit like, it brought me right back to go grab a Sicko CD to listen to.
What song was it? Do you know?
Let me see. I will pull it up because it'll probably be my most played.
I'm trying to think of what song we would have that would sound like Sicko. As much as I love Sicko, I don't know if we sound anything
I don't
like
know listen, I don't know what it is. Sometimes could be a chord in a song or a bass line that makes me think of something else.
Yeah, I got you.
So I'll send you the song exactly.
Yeah.
And I'll pull out the part too and say, here, this is why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
I know what you're talking about.
The whole song, but there was a part of it, and I was like, wow. And that's why when we get to the end of the show and we have our weekly threes, I'll even say one of them now is Sicko that I got back into because I was like, fuck, I had to go back to every single thing they did.
Yeah, I love that band. And Alan got me super into Sicko, Alan Rappaport, because he was like obsessed with them. I think he still is. and he was like, oh, you've got to listen to Sicko. And I didn't know them at the time. He introduced me to them, and then I was like obsessed with them.
Yeah, he introduced me to him too back in the day when he handed me the first CD. He's like, here, you're going to like this. And sure
did he turn you on to Jill?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's another guy. Do you know Mike Doyle? He has This Was the Scene podcast. Or he has it still. He still has it.
The name sounds very familiar.
He played in a band called Lane Meyer, and he had a he has a podcast called This Was the Scene that I did an interview with like a couple of years ago at this point, but it was like just a straight like Jill interview. But there was just like all about that because his podcast is kind of rooted in like back in the day, that scene back then. And we got on this big thing about Alan Rappaport, and he was like, "Oh, Alan turned me on to Jill," and I was curious if Alan told you about us as well.
Yeah, no, he was a big part of my musical exploration in life. I mean, I would spend every day there with him, and we would listen to everything that would come in. And I think my first Jill CD might still have the stamp on it that's not for resale, but
that's so funny.
Yeah, it's and that's one of the big things is the people that play a part in your life and musical exploration. And I mean, I've gone in so many different directions in my life when it comes to music, and there's so many different things that I fall in love with that I never realized can connect to places, to other things, kind of like this today, which is, I feel like an asshole for not knowing that you were Jill. But at the same time, it's awesome. That's why I'm doing this, because it's there's that big rabbit hole that you can go down, and there's so many bands that are connected to each other that you would never know of. And it's just an amazing, amazing thing.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, music is kind of going back to the beginning of this conversation, was like, from like the time I was 5, it just, some reason it just meant like everything to me, and it still does, and now I'm like 1,000 years old, and I'm still like, I still love it just as much as I did when I was a kid. And now I'm like so much more into like different kinds of music, and I still am kind of rooted in kind of punk rock and power pop, and that probably will always be the thing that I really, really love. But I like all kinds of music now, and I think that pulling influence from just French pop music and just like stuff that you're just like, this is great, it's not punk, and who cares, it's just, I love this. So hearing just like old like bossa nova music, anything that makes me think of like a James Bond movie, I'm gonna like immediately be a fan of it. So, but I still love things that I grew up on, and I'm obsessed with the Misfits. I still love the Misfits. That's one of my favorite bands of all time. When I was in junior high, I used to listen to them when I'd go to sleep at night. Like I would play a cassette of Walk Among Us pretty loud when I would like and I'd lay in the dark listening to the Misfits and going to sleep. And if it wasn't that, it was Simon and Garfunkel's Greatest Hits. And those are like the two tapes I would like alternate between when I would like go to sleep at night.
Yeah, it's funny. I had my wife actually one day, like I was just putting together like a playlist of like just stuff that I love to listen to. Mm-hmm. And like towards like the 8th song, she goes, okay, so you definitely have a sound. And and like, I never like really put it together, but then I started to just literally sit down. And what I did was I started like writing all the bands that were like, that I loved and the music that I love. And, from my first musical memory, I remember the first song I ever heard that was actual music that made me think of something. And I remember the same place and time. And I just, all I did was like basically do this family tree of music. And I was like, holy fuck, I do have a sound that like I just gravitate towards.
Yeah. I think everybody does. I think there's characteristics of music that you're just drawn to it, like, I don't think that that's weird. Are you saying that you think it's weird? Or
I do, because I love so much different stuff. And like, I've had people tell me something is straight dog shit and someone be like, wow, that's fucking amazing. And I'm like, dude, it's the same fucking thing I just played you. But it's just, but going through all my stuff, like if you were to come into my studio and go through all my music, you'll be like, what the fuck is this? What is this? You listen to this? You listen to this?
Yeah.
But then when I sit down and make a playlist, I literally find, and I think it's because of the first band that I ever heard and fell in love with was the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
And the harmonies between Brian Wilson and Mike Love and I guess I gravitated towards that. Like, I guess I all the bands that I listen to usually have the, one or, usually a lot of times have 2 singers.
Yeah.
2 guitarists or the bass. And it's just, I find myself like, that's what I love, but I don't want to listen to it all the time because I love so much other stuff. But when I go back and I go to that family tree, I'm like, fuck, wow. Yeah. I guess I do.
Well, I mean, let's go full circle. That's me and Rick Springfield. Yeah. It's everything that I really, really like, whether it be punk or power pop or, anything else. It's all rooted in like melody, vocal harmonies, guitars, like that's the stuff that I really like. And I would put money on it if you could, hypnotize me and do some kind of therapy on me. It would probably find that it's because it all goes back to Rick Springfield and Adam and the Ants, and then it became the Sex Pistols, and it's just, then it was the Clash and the Sex Pistols, and those are all those things that like shape what you're into and what you identify with. I mean, the Sex Pistols, there was no reason for me to identify with that when I was in 6th grade, but for some reason when I heard it, I was just like, this is my thing. Like, I like this. It was like exciting. It was scary. I remember like he's dropping F-bombs all over the place, and I'm like 11 years old, and I'm like, oh my God, listen, this guy's like going crazy. And
listen, the first time you hear fucking a song and you're like, whoa, this is great.
Yeah. I mean, and in Bodies, he says it like over and over and over, and you're just like, and being like 11 years old and hearing that, you're just like, whoa, like that's intense. But it was like, it was exciting, it was like scary and exciting. And then for whatever reason, that was my kind of path from that point forward, was like, I like this. This excites me.
That's awesome.
And I still hear that album. It's still like one of my favorite albums of all time because it rules.
So do you have a favorite band? Would it be Rick Springfield? Or do you have like, do you have a favorite band that you constantly are like, they just, it's never going to disappoint you, and you find yourself going back to that all the time?
I have
3. So
I was going to say I probably have 10.
Yeah. Listen, I have 184 if we really want to count, but like there's 3 bands that I constantly, and they're all different because it's, whatever mood I'm in. But I'm like, if somebody asks me, I'm like, here's my 3. And it depends on what day.
I'm going to say I'd have to narrow mine down to 5, and I think that would be as small as I could get it. But I think that, I think like most people, I don't think I have a band that I'd be like, this is my all-time favorite band. It never changes. It's always this. I don't think I have that, but I do have probably 5 to 10 that I'd be like, these never fail. It doesn't matter what mood I'm in. I could always put something like this on and it would be good. Do you want to know who they are? Is that the question?
That is the question. That's thought-provoking questions here. We want answers to.
All right. Let me see. I would probably say Descendants are one of them. That's a band that I've loved since I was in junior high, and I still love them.
We got new stuff coming out from them soon too.
Yeah. Well, I just pre-ordered that LP they did. That's like all of the old songs, like before they ever, like, it's like Frank Navetta and Tony Lombardo, and what that's, it's like the fifth, and you know what I'm talking about. It's like, it's the name of the corner of the street that they practiced on or whatever. But Descendants are probably one of my all-time favorite bands. I'm a huge David Bowie fan, so I love Bowie. Superchunk is probably a band that would be in my top favorites of all time.
Never Misfits. Let me down.
The Misfits are up there. I really love Super Drag.
Super Drag is one of those. I don't think they really ever got enough credit. I had this thing on the show. I called it Overrated, Underrated, where it was a band where I'd say, like, I would think Super Drag could fall into that because people have heard of them, but I think they were very underrated, but overrated at one point, but a very underrated band for what they did.
Yeah, they're I love that band. The Jam is probably one of my favorite bands. There was another one that I was just thinking about that I was like, this is kind of always a constant. Who was it? I really love, I'm not going to say it's in my top 10 favorites, but I was going to say Sugar. I really love Husker Du and Sugar a lot.
Yeah. Bob Mould he's got that sound that is undeniable.
I'm going to say 5. I'm going to say Descendants, The Jam, Misfits, Jawbreaker, maybe. I could, man. Bowie. I already said that one. I think I'd have to do 10. I think I have to do 10 bands.
Listen, that's fine. You know what you do? And I've had someone just make a playlist and send it to me, and we'll post it as your favorites.
I could do that.
So is there anything that somebody would be like, we'll call it a guilty pleasure, something that you really enjoy listening to that somebody, and listen, I'm going to say it for the 1 millionth time on this show. I understand we're older and we own up to everything we listen to, but there's still that one little tiny millisecond when somebody goes, what the fuck is this? That you kind of stop in your head and think for a second before you go, fuck you, I like it. But
yeah.
Is there a guilty pleasure, like since McDonald's just came out with the BTS chicken nuggets, like, is it BTS? Like, are you down with BTS? Like, is it something like that?
Yeah. Who would I say is like a guilty pleasure? I think everything that I used to always think of guilty pleasures, I now just sort of am a fan. I guess the one I can think of off the top of my head that I kind of get razzed about a little bit is I like the wallflowers.
Okay. That's totally fine. Got a friend who's a great musician, and he's like, dude, wallflowers never got enough credit. They're fucking awesome. I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
that's
they're I really like that band, and I think I've never heard, like, I haven't heard every single album they've put out, but I own probably 2 or 3 of them,
and
I like
it.
them. Yeah, and I think that for a long period of time, like, if I'd said that to people, they'd be like, "What? What's wrong with you?" And but I don't know. I guess at one point in time it was a guilty pleasure, but now I don't really care. It's like, yeah, I like it. I guess maybe another one that people would kind of give shit about would be. I think like the Gin Blossoms are pretty good. Maybe that same era. Like,
yeah, listen, I don't care what anybody says. I think they're fucking fantastic. The only thing I don't like about the Gin Blossoms is they came out with a greatest hits as their 3rd album.
Oh yeah, it's kind of silly. But yeah, that new Miserable Experience record is really good, and it's like, I mean, if you're into power pop, that's what it is.
That's it. Yep. I guess I have that sound.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess that maybe would be a guilty pleasure for some people, but I like it. I mean, right. I don't know. I don't.
So we touched on it over an hour ago, which I'm sorry that I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Yeah, I'm not like in a hurry or anything.
Yeah, to get to where we are with Gentlemen Rogues, which is dynamite, and the fact that you're going to be working on a new album is exciting for me. Cool. I mean, how has this progressed from, I mean, because you've been a band for about 10 years now, right? I mean, it's a short time, but it's a long time. And, you've trickled out with the EPs that is now, I mean, it's the nature of the business too, where music has gone, where it's that to use the term, the trickle down economics in music, where it's, hey, we give you a little bit at a time to keep you, salivating for more. I do miss the old, here's an album and I get to listen to it all at once, and instead of having to wait. But I mean, how have you seen that, and how have you kind of dealt with that, from today's new aspect of releasing music? And have you taken that with Gentlemen Rogues to kind of do music that way, or you're just doing music when you can do music?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. We started, probably roughly like 10 years ago. And when you say it like that, not you say it, but when anyone says it like that, it sounds like, man, you guys have been a band for a long time. And then, which isn't wrong, but we also, like, there's a lot of, backstory to it that I kind of would argue that we've been a band for 10 years. I would say we've been a band for more like 6 or 7 because we got off to a kind of a really slow start. We started in like 2010, I think, but we didn't play a show for like a year and a half or something. Like, we just kind of really took our time with it for reasons I don't really know. It just didn't really feel like there was any. Yeah. Yeah, we just weren't. There was no urgency to it at the time. It just kind of felt like, let's just kind of do it, Yeah. And it was all new people. It was like this guy Matt and this guy Cole and Corden, who played guitar in the band for a long time until he moved to Portland a few years ago. But we kind of started the band, and it sort of slowly formed. It was like just like Jill, just like the Fall Collection. It was like me and a drummer, me and and the guy playing drums, and that was the band for like 6 months. And then we got another guitar player, and so then it was 2 guitarists and a drummer. And the goal was always to be a 4-piece band, but it was like finding people to do it. It just took a while, and then once we had the band, we just weren't in like a hurry to like get out and play shows and do all this stuff, so we kind of took our time. So I would say, I mean, we possibly didn't play our first show until like 2012, having started the band in like 2010, somewhere in there. I don't remember what month it was, but so then, you can almost like knock off 2 years in a way, because it's almost like once you do your sort of live debut, that's sort of, in my mind, when you've kind of officially become a band. You like did the thing, and people saw you do it, and therefore, it's now legit or something. But and then we, with COVID, it's in a weird, in a way, we've never really broken up, but I feel like with COVID, you come to like erase a year, even though we've been kind of productive this year with writing. It's the band hasn't done shit this year, other than like internet stuff and promoting a 7-inch to people that we can't play for, and which is surprisingly done way better than we thought it would, which has been good. But and then there was a period where we didn't have like a bass player, and we went for 8 months without a bass player. So we just always had these like periods where we'd get really active, and then it would go slow down and get really dormant for a little bit, and then we'd pick back up. And it was never because we didn't want to be going. It was just, people would like quit the band or whatever, and then it was like, okay, so we need to find another person to play bass, and then that would just take way longer than you would think it would. And so then you've erased another year from your existence of a band, because you didn't really do much for that year because you weren't a full band. Does that make any sense, what I'm trying to communicate?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you kind of just go, we formed in this year and now we're in 2021, it's like, yeah, we've been a band for a long time, but there's these pockets of time that were kind of like, we weren't ever broken up, but we weren't really doing anything either, because we, for one reason or another, we just weren't active, but we were always together. So yeah, so our output doesn't really reflect how long we've been doing it, but I think I'm hoping that will kind of change, and that things will get a little more consistent, because we've put out a couple of EPs. We have 3 EPs, 2 of which are about to get put out on vinyl. I don't know if you're like a record nerd like me, but
if you saw everything that's surrounding me, I'm staring at the CDs, and behind me is an entire 30-foot long wall filled with records. So
beautiful. Yeah, so we have an EP called A History So Repeating, and another one called Fatal Music, and those are, as we speak, at the pressing plant, getting put onto a 12-inch. So there's going to be 1 EP on each side.
Nice.
And those are finally getting like a vinyl release, which is kind of how we always wanted them. But
and History So Repeating just got put back up for streaming too recently, correct?
Yeah, because that's the only thing we've ever done where we were under contract with a label, and that contract expired, and so we got the rights to those songs back to where we could do whatever we wanted with them. But when that contract expired, he removed it all from like streaming platforms, download stuff. And then we kind of were working on this idea of getting these 2 EPs put out on a 12-inch. And so for some stupid reason, we never put A History So Repeating back up on streaming or on download and stuff. So we just didn't. I mean, there's no like, it's literally just like we just didn't do it. And then the other day, like last week, I was like, why have we never put that back up? And then I submitted.
I liked your post too about it. About, hey, everybody listen so we can get our royalty check for $16.15 from Spotify a year from now.
Yeah, that's with 1 million streams too, mind you. Yeah. So yeah, it literally took like 3 days to get it back up and running, and I don't know why we just sat there and didn't didn't do it. So we have this new thing coming out that's called, the two EPs combined. It's on a 12-inch getting released it's a co-release with Snappy Little Numbers and a label out of Seattle called Rocket Heart Records, who've put out some like Ultimate Fake Book stuff, The Dead Girls.
Ultimate Fake Book, another band. Fuck, you mentioned this, and now I gotta go back into it. Yeah, super cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so they're putting that out. It's going to be 2 EPs on each side, or sorry, 1 EP on each side, and we've combined the titles, so the record's called A History of Fatalism, and it's going to be on yellow vinyl and red vinyl, and it's going to be a 10-song LP with 3 digital bonus tracks, which is going to be the cover songs that we did on each EP are going to be digital. Okay. Bonus tracks, so that Erasure cover, the Morrissey cover, and then there's a live Liz Phair cover that it's just me and electric guitar, kind of like Billy Bragg or like Ted Leo or something, and that's going to be one of the bonus digital tracks too. So. And yeah, so that's coming out. It's the pressing plants are also backed up right now. They quoted us a 6-month turnaround, and we're 2.5 months into that. So it's probably will be coming out at the end of the summer, possibly September.
Yeah, they're all way backed up from what I heard and read, and
yeah. So we'll see what happens, and then, but by the time that comes out, we hopefully will be in the studio recording a brand new album, and so yeah, that's kind of the skinny on what's kind of coming next. Our Do the Resurrection 7-inch is out still, of course, and that's we made a video for that song, which is something we've never done before, but it was something that COVID kind of felt like, let's make a video. We can't play live, we can't tour, we can't really do anything right now, but what we could do is something we've never tried before, which is make a music video. So we made a video for the single. You can find that on YouTube and whatever, but yeah, I mean, there's like fun stuff coming down the pike, and hopefully life returns to some semblance of normalcy the more we keep chugging along. And we'll see what happens, but I mean, Gentlemen Rogues is kind of it's a pop, like a power pop band, but maybe
punk,
a little more like
punk aesthetics behind it.
Kind of indie rockish a little bit, kind of. I'm trying to think of what, for anyone listening to this who like maybe has no idea what we sound like. Do the Resurrection's a pop song though. That's probably the most power pop song that I've ever done with Gentlemen Rogues. Maybe the poppiest, but it's a good one. I like that song. And but yeah, the rest of them are kind of more like indie rocky, punky pop songs. And if you're a fan of like things that we get compared to, be like the Replacements and Super Drag a little bit, Super Chunk a little bit. So, all those things that I love creep in there somehow. So if you're fans of like, the Replacements, Super Drag, stuff like that, you might like it. For anyone who's not a fan or has never heard us. That's my sales pitch. Yeah. Real enthusiastic.
Yeah, you could listen, if you can check it out or you can not check it out, whatever.
Just Google it or whatever. I'm not very good at selling myself.
No, it's fine. I'll do it for you.
All right.
So I'm going to ask you 2 self-reflective questions real quick. One is, do you have a favorite song that you've written and recorded in your career that you can honestly say that's the best I've done so far?
Man, that's a good question. I'm not saying this because it's the newest thing. Maybe that's kind of why my brain is saying it, though, is because the newest thing is kind of exciting. I like our new single, Do the Resurrection. I don't know if I'd say it's like this is the best thing I've ever done, but I like the direction that it's kind of sent us in, because it was in a weird way, kind of a writing exercise. It was like, let me write a song that doesn't have a lot of chords, I'm not going to overthink the lyrics like I have a tendency to do. And we're going to try to, I don't know, like we just tried to write it kind of quickly. Don't think about it too much. Just try to make a simple pop song. And that was kind of the goal of it. And even though I don't think it sounds that simple. I think when you hear it, the goal was to write a simple pop song, but it ended up with a dueling guitar harmony solo. And it's like, it kind of has some like over the top moments, but that's just maybe the nature of kind of what we do or whatever. But I like that song a lot. And I like some of my favorite stuff is the stuff we haven't recorded yet. We have a song called Kamikaze Kissing that is like it's kind of like a pandemic love song that I might say is my favorite thing I've ever written right now. I hope that it, I think it's going to turn out really good, and I'm kind of excited for people to hear it. But maybe my favorite thing is something we haven't even recorded yet. We had the Fall Collection and QUIMBY, because it was originally a QUIMBY song, was Nerd in Shining Armor. That's a great song. Yeah, that one's on that. That's the one. That's the song that's on the Michael and Carly comp, the original version of that song. And like that's a song that a lot of people like. That's one that I'm kind of like proud of to some, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a song.
Listen, it's a tough question, and the fact that you were able to give me an answer is fantastic.
Yeah.
I asked somebody, and he sent me his playlist of 10 songs. He's like, "Here's my 10 best songs I've ever done." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, I honestly do say this. I think that my favorite song I've ever written is one that no one has really heard yet, and that's that song "Kamikaze Kissing." That's the working title. The original title was "I Wanna Be Infected." And it was deemed too offensive of a title by some members of the band.
By the time it comes out, I mean, are we still? Is it too soon? Is it still? Well,
you know what? One of my favorite, going backwards a little bit, one of my all-time favorite bands is the Smiths, and the song is not about COVID, and it's not about it's not about that really. It's kind of like a. It's the sort of the idea behind it. Do you know the Smiths at all? Do you know that song? Yes. There's a light that never goes out.
Yeah, my friends make fun of me, and I always have to say, "Listen, my sister is 4.5 years older than me. I love the Smiths. I love the Cure. Shut up."
That's your guilty pleasure. But yeah, it's kind of like it's sort of a song like that. It's like the premise of the song is I don't want to get COVID, but if I'm going to get it, I want to get it from you, So it's this kind of like
a love song.
It's a romantic sentiment that is sort of like grounded in a, pandemic. And I tried to make the lyrics, vague in the sense that it's not citing things really specific. Like it doesn't say things like, it doesn't ever mention the word COVID or the number 19 or it's like it's just like if you saw the lyrics you would kind of put together the setting. I guess it's a love song where the setting is kind of like a pandemic, but
okay.
It's not about like, I think that the thing that some people may think is that it's offensive to to people who've had COVID or who've lost loved ones because of COVID, and that's not what it's about, and that's not like, it's not making fun.
We're gonna have to have a new fucking disclaimer sticker on albums now.
Well, maybe, but it's just like, it's one of those things that where you're like, but guy, like I'm really happy with this, and if I didn't feel like it was one of my favorite things, if not my favorite thing I've maybe ever written, I would be like, maybe it would be more like, just kind of dismissive of it. But, I'm not really worried about people being offended by it, because once you hear the words and stuff, I don't personally think it's an offensive song, and it's just a love song. Setting is as a global pandemic.
Let's stop equating it to possibly COVID-19, so people don't think it is. COVID-19.
Can you edit this part out of this?
I think I'm gonna mark for edit. Last 2.5 minutes. So
I know I talked about it for too long.
Someone's gonna be like,
that's
there's that fucking COVID song.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite thing I've ever written though at the moment. I'm excited for people to hear it.
I can't wait. For the next 8 months before I get to hear it, but that's awesome. Thanks for teasing me. That's what we do here. You just tease people. So funny. My last self-reflective question. This is really hard, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. But if say something, knock on wood, drastically happened to you, how would you most like to be remembered as an artist?
I think I'd first have to start thinking of myself as an artist. I don't know. I guess that I was a nice person and that I did quality things.
Good enough.
That my music was quality.
I consider it quality. So you got one person that'll think that.
All right.
Definitely.
There's maybe 20 more of you.
Hey, it only takes one person, man, to change the world. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be the thing. I feel like we talk about stuff and then we go back a little bit in the conversation, but it's and not in a bad way. I think that with Gentlemen Rogues, for example, we've been a band for a long time, but we don't have a ton of stuff out. I mean, there's probably a total of 14 or 15 songs you could listen to by our band, but I think they're all really good. And I don't mean that to sound arrogant, but it's one of those things where I don't think there's a single song of ours that I would be I don't like that one anymore. Or I wish I would never have written that one. Or I think all of our stuff is really good.
You didn't crumple it up and throw it on the floor. Sometimes you release songs and you're like, man, I wish I left that crumpled up on the floor. But at the same time, I've said it to artists before. It's not yours anymore. Once it's out for me to listen to, it now belongs to me. It doesn't belong to you anymore. I'm the one who takes ownership of it, and the song means what it means to me. So whatever you wrote it and intended for, that has no bearing on what it means to me. So.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's kind of my point. It's I like all of our stuff, and I think it's quality stuff, and I guess that would be the thing I'd want to be remembered by, is if anyone was that guy played music or whatever, oh yeah, he was a really good songwriter, or he made good music, I guess that would be the thing I'd want to be remembered by. I'd also like to be remembered as not being an asshole.
we all want that, but there's going to be that one person that's be like, that guy was an asshole.
Yeah. That's
the one guy you beeped at one day who cut you off and almost killed you.
But that's the case, then I'm definitely an asshole. Anyway.
All right. So we could go on forever here, and you and I are going to have another conversation when the album finally drops. So,
cool. I'd do that.
We end our show every week with our weekly threes. It's 3 things you're listening to right now. Could be new, could be old, could be an audiobook, whatever, but 3 things you're listening to right now that you'd want somebody to check out.
Okay. 3 things I'm listening to that are exciting at the moment. I just revisited The Wedding Present. Do you know The Wedding Present?
Oh my God, I love The Wedding Present, and people don't understand why I do at times, which is weird.
Oh man, I love them too. In the early, I think 2000, 2001, they did an album called Take Fountain, and I've been listening to that this week. I put the CD in the car, and I've been playing that. I hadn't listened to it in a long time. That and his other band Cinerama that I'm a gigantic fan of. I've been listening to the Cinerama and that Take Fountain Wedding Present album. So I'm going to lump that as one because it's the same songwriter, David Gedge, who's one of my heroes. So that's one thing. I've been listening to, not to keep talking about them, but Super Drag just put out that reissue of In the Valley of Dying Stars.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been spinning that because I got that orange vinyl copy, and I've been listening to that. And then the last thing I've been listening to is a band called The Like that put out a record in like 2009 or 2010 called Release Me. And it's like an all-girl group that they did their first album was, I think it's called Are You Thinking What I'm Thinking? And it was kind of indie rock, like all-female kind of indie rock sort of band. And their second album, they did this total like, Fulgia, and kind of did this like all like kind of girl group, almost like if the Supremes were a guitar band. And so they did this second album that's all like 60s girl group inspired stuff, but all like done on guitars and like Farfisa organs and stuff. And the album is called Release Me, and the band is called The Like. And I've been listening to that album a lot lately too. So
Awesome.
The Wedding Present, The Like, Super Drag, In the Valley of Dying Stars.
Nice.
There's my three.
My three for this week. First one is a band called Braincoats. They are a Swedish pop punk band. Their most recent release is called Fun Sad Songs. I implore people, if you like the power pop punk stuff, it's to fucking die for. It really is. Braincoats, yeah.
Okay.
Braincoats. They're a Swedish pop punk band.
Cool.
My second one is a band called Series. They're an Australian indie band. They got some awesome fucking bangers and some songs that'll make you cry.
Series?
No, it's Ceres.
Okay.
Known as Series from Australia. Yeah.
Cool.
And to go full circle from where we were earlier, Sicko is my third one.
Which album?
I went through the whole discography again. So Chef Boredom and, all that stuff. I've literally, I forgot that I had an original LP, and I was like, holy shit. Like, that's how many records I have, where like I just start going through. I'm like, oh my God, I have this. I did that too. You mentioned a band before, Weston. I went through and I'm like, oh my God, I have Weston's first album. I'm like, what the fuck? How much stuff do I have?
That's fun. Yeah, when it's fun and like depressing when you're like at a record store and you're like, oh, I want to buy this, but you're like, do I already have it?
Yeah. That's the worst. And then if you don't and you go back and it's gone, you're like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, so those are my three: Braincoats, Series, and Sicko.
Yeah, I got a when Sicko did those kind of reunion shows last year before, whenever
2019.
Yeah, they did kind of a greatest hits record that they have like they had 100 copies on white vinyl, and I was like messaging with Ian and was like, hey, do you have any of the white ones left? And he's like, we may have like a few left when we get back from tour. And I'm like, can you set one aside? Like, I really want one of the white ones because they're, I'm such a collector nerd that I was like, I don't want the black vinyl. I want the white one because there's only 100 of those and it's colored and And I ended up getting one, so I was pretty stoked.
That's awesome. Yeah, I did not have the opportunity to get the white vinyl.
He had like a couple left when they got home. I guess they went out to New York and stuff and played those shows.
They did basically 3 big shows that year. It was in New York, Seattle, and Seattle because that's where they're from, but somewhere else too. But
yeah, I think he said he's like, I think there's like a handful of those left, and I was like, the day he was like, the day they got back from tour, I'm like, do you still have one? I was probably being like a pest.
Hey, he's like, yeah, it's me again.
Hello. But yeah, so awesome. That's a cool band.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So why don't you take the time right now to tell all of our listeners how to find all your stuff? that you're doing. So now's your time to be your salesman. Basically, just tell them where to buy your stuff.
All right. Well, so I play in a band called Gentlemen Rogues. And you can go to gentlemanrogues.bandcamp.com and you can find all of our records and downloads and whatever you're interested in. And that will be directly from us. I will send you your records myself because I guess I'm the one who handles all that. But yeah, you can find us on social media. Facebook.com/gentlemanrogues, @gentlemanrogues on Instagram and Twitter, which we don't ever tweet because tweeting is goofy and I don't like it. But we're on there.
Do not have a presence on Twitter here ourselves either. We have an account, but we rarely ever do anything there.
Same here. I have an account, and anytime we need to promote something, that's pretty much the only time I ever log into it. But we'll do Instagram stuff. We do Facebook stuff. And but yeah, you can find us on the social medias at Gentleman Rogues on Instagram, Facebook, gentlemanrogues.bandcamp.com. We have gentlemanroguesmusic.com, which is our official site that may or may not be updated, but it's out there too. So yeah. You can find us in a bunch of different places. We have a new single out called Do the Resurrection. It's on half and half 7-inch vinyl. It's like milky clear and black. It looks really cool. The B-side is a really wacky cover song that I've never heard anyone do what we've done with this song, and people seem to really like it. But it's a weird hybrid cover of Rudderless by the Lemonheads, Destination Ursa Major by Super Drag, and a little bit of a My Bloody Valentine guitar lick that kind of makes an appearance at the end. But it's not a medley. It's more of like an organic mashup where it sort of sounds like was written that way on purpose, but it's actually comprised of like 3 different songs. And it's a really neat idea, and it came off better than we could have ever imagined. And so it's worth checking out, and it's the B-side to our new 7-inch. So check it out, people.
Well, awesome. So as you just heard from Danny, everybody go check out the Gentleman Rogues and have a great time.
Wasn't never made to
Thanks again for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HiddenTracks99. Also, send all your submissions myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Tune in next week. You may find your new favorite band, and don't forget to go out and have a great fucking time.